Welcome to Back on the Broomstick,
A modern witch's spoken word grimoire.
where two witchy friends from way back are reconnecting to their pagan roots after a long period of mundanity.
We're rewalking the path of the wise and trying out all the latest spells, rituals, and magical theory in today's witchcraft and pagan practices.
So grab your wand and your incense
Your cauldron and your crystals
and join us
as we get
back on the broomstick.
Hi, and welcome to Back on the Broomstick. I'm Layla, and this is a Witch's Answer episode. Hot takes from the Cauldron. In this episode, we answer your questions that have been sent in to us through Instagram DM, email, and comments on our Spotify and our Buzzsprout.
And I'm Chelle, and I just want to say, first of all, I love these Witches Answer episodes. They're so much fun, and it gives us kind of a good opportunity to interact with all of you guys out there listening. But also, for those of you that have been like, geez, I sent an Instagram message like 5 weeks ago and I haven't heard. I'm not saying that I am the most timely person, but these Witches Answer episodes give us a chance to kind of catch up on all of the messages and all of the mails and get us back on track. So a two-pointed reason I love these.
I like that. I also like that you mentioned mail because, as we've told you guys, our post office box is moving. It's my turn to have the P.O. box a little bit closer. So the new P.O. box will be listed on our website, on the show notes, and on our social media. And at the end of this episode, we're going to tell you about a contest involving our new P.O. box and how you can get a handwritten letter with a personal spell from us.
Ooh, makes me want to send a letter to the new P.O. box.
Well, we're going to give you all the details at the end of the episode. But before we get to that, we are going to dive into our mailbag or grab bag of questions and see what we can pull out.
Okay, so this was one of those messages that was several weeks old, so I want to hop into this one first. And this is a message from Eckley, and they want to know which decks have swords as fire and which decks have wands as fire. And I know that we've talked about this a few times, but my absolute most favorite deck in all of the world, The Witch's Tarot by Ellen Cannon Reed. It's funny, we always talk about where my problem started, and my problem started with this deck. The Londa Tarot also has minors that have depictions that don't use fire.
Another good one that just recently came out is the Battley Tarot by Jake Battley, and that's an absolutely gorgeous deck. He did a ton of research on that, and he also associates wands with air and swords with fire. And the book that comes with that deck would be an excellent resource because it does have so much information on why he chose all the symbology, history of tarot, that kind of thing.
You got to remember what works for you. Phyllis Curat's Witch's Wisdom Tarot uses the elements themselves. Fire equals fire, which I think is a good concept. I do like variety, and that is a good take on it. Layla's first deck was the Smith-Waite clone called The Ancient Prophecy. The cards didn't really have elements or things of that nature, but the Ace of Swords had fire around it, and the Ace of Wands had a cloud around it.
For that particular deck, for the Tarot of the Ancient Prophecy, the descriptions of the cards, if you go into the book and you read the descriptions of the cards, there were no elements mentioned at all. But the depictions of the cards themselves, you could see some things that would lead you to see elements. It's a very Rider-Waite-Smith coded deck. And those do have, there's flames in it, there's clouds. You'll see water and mountains in the backgrounds of different things. So you can see elements listed in the deck itself, but nothing's overt. And I think that's really the point here, is that there are decks out there that will have the traditional meanings flipped. Because traditionally, if you go into the Golden Dawn, right, the meanings are swapped from what you and I follow.
Right.
The original kind of meanings, wands in tarot is fire and swords is air. And that doesn't really kind of go with how we see those particular suits. So to be honest, no matter what deck I read, I am going to read swords as destructive, as catalytic, as hot-headed, as emotional, as
I agree
angry.
100%.
And no matter what deck I'm reading, I'm going to read wands as things that are calmer, as more analytical, more communication and things like that. So I don't care how the author of the deck, if they say this is fire, 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 very rarely will I read it that way and not in the way that my personal belief and tradition feels it should be read.
I can say the same thing about decks that kind of quote unquote make up their own suits. They'll say, we're going to use candles and that's going to represent fire, the fire suit or whatever the case may be. Lots of different decks use lots of different things for the four suits. And I agree 100%. If I know that, say, a sugar cookie is supposed to represent the air element cards. Every time I see a sugar cookie card, I'm going to think of what I think of the wands. So I have that same mindset that it's kind of ingrained in me. And no matter what the author of the deck uses, I'm going to interpret it the way I'm going to interpret it in my head.
Yeah, same. And I know we're answering Eckley's question, but the very next question we're also kind of answering as well. So I'm just going to ask it and we can kind of keep going with this conversation because Kate R says, "Hi ladies, I really connect with the idea of swords as fire and wands as air, but I'm struggling to find resources to learn to interpret the cards in this way. Any suggestions or resources?" And I wanted to bring that question up because we're kind of talking about the fact that it's hard to find resources. Chelle mentioned a few decks. Alan Cannon Reed's The Witch's Tarot is one of my biggest influences. It was one of my first decks, and that in my Wiccan background very much influenced my swords, fire, wands, air, hard coding, I guess. But you don't see it that often. And you certainly don't see books dedicated to that.
I will say that there are decks that have really good companion books, such as Ellen Cannon Reed's Witch's Tarot. The deck I'm using right now, the Owl Tarot, that has a great companion book. So sometimes you'll find some good information on this from the actual companion books. And I'm not talking about the decks that just come with, the little white pamphlet. I'm talking if you get the box set and it has like the big companion book with it.
Although I can't think of any specific books other than tarot companion books that talk about swords being fire, there are some excellent books about tarot symbology. And so what I would recommend is that you read some of these books that really get into the history of tarot, get into the symbolism, that get into the correspondences and why they were chosen. And that will help you decide what correspondences really tweak your magical brain, really get you interested and get that divination flowing for you. So the three that I'm going to recommend are Tarot Deciphered, Decoding Esoteric Symbolism in Modern Tarot by M.M. Meline and T. Susan Chang, and Tarot Correspondences, Ancient Secrets for Everyday Readers by T. Susan Chang, Mary K. Greer's 21 Ways to Read a Tarot Card, and okay, one more, a fourth one, Holistic Tarot, An Integrative Approach to Using Tarot for Personal Growth by Benabel Wen, to help you kind of dive into the history, the meaning, and why different symbols and elements were chosen. And that can help you then break the rules because it's important to know why they were chosen and it's important to decide what works for you.
Right.
You and I talk a lot, Chelle, about forming your own connections and forming your own belief systems on things. Your symbols, what you believe as symbology, is going to be more magical and more meaningful to you than someone else telling you what it means.
Right.
And you can also shape things. Like we talk a lot about using what you have to make a spell, right? Like I promise we'll get back to tarot. I swear I have a point. Like we say if you're going to do a love spell and all you have is peppers, hot peppers, you can say that those hot peppers are going to light a fire under your ass, right? They're going to light your passions. You can take the meanings of those peppers and move it to the direction you need it to go, right? So when I read swords, it's always going to be fire. It's always going to be action. Any definition of a swords card I've read sounds like fire to me. Those are qualities that I assign to fire, not qualities I assign to air. They're just different sides of kind of the same thing. I guess I'm trying very badly to say that you can find the fire side of swords just as easily as you can find the air side of swords if that's your belief.
And I think, this is one of those things that we could talk about ad nauseum, and there's really going to be no right or wrong answer, no matter how much we beat this subject to death. And I think it's just go with what works for you. And again, find some good companion books, find some really good books on tarot. Matt Aron's got some good books amongst many others that we've talked about. But I think it really comes down to however you want to read them, that's the right way.
And just like when you read a card, you might ignore the color red that's in it and really focus on the small animal in the corner.
Or maybe you don't read reversals.
Right, there's different ways to read everything. These cards are so rich in symbology and meaning. I think that there's definitely ways to make your belief system work with it. But it should make sense. And so I'm going to say journal it so that you can
Of
keep,
course you are.
yeah, so you can keep track of your meanings and what feels right to you and what stands out to you when you read the card.
All right, we got one more tarot question.
All right.
This question is from Catherine, and she says, when asking a question and the intention is to pull one card, but the card leaves some confusion, do you reshuffle and ask for clarification, or do you pull the next card?
Yes.
Yes. It depends. Honestly, it's just going to depend on the vibe and how I feel. There's going to be sometimes I'm going to do one, sometimes I'm going to do the other.
Exactly. There's no tarot police. Nobody's going to come bang on your door and say you're doing it wrong. Sometimes, just like Chelle said, sometimes it feels right to pull the very next card. Or honestly, what I find myself doing a lot is looking at the bottom card. And other times I pull the middle card, or I'll shuffle it, or sometimes I'll spread them all out. I'll even sometimes pull an oracle card.
It's kind of whatever that vibe is in the moment, I think. Do you feel like you should reshuffle? Do you feel like you should be pulling the top card? And that kind of goes to the next question, how many? Pull till you feel like you should stop. Sometimes that could be one extra card, sometimes that could be five extra cards.
And I guess it really depends on what is the confusion, because I will admit there have been times I've laid out a whole spread and been like, this makes absolute no sense. I got nothing. You've done it,
I'm asking the wrong question.
Or sometimes I wasn't clear or I wasn't really ready to lay them down yet, maybe. And so in those
Right.
cases, I will absolutely pull them all up, try to refocus, reground, restate the question, and concentrate, shuffle, and redeal. But it really depends. It depends on the moment and what feels right to me at that time.
Yeah.
I guess it gets back to really, there's no tarot police. What's right for you is right for you. All right, next we have Okay, so this question is from I wanna. I like that name. I wanna. I do too.
There's a lot of things I want to do.
Seriously. And it usually involves tarot for you, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And journals for me. Oh, quick tangent. Sorry, I gotta say a quick tangent. So I don't know if we mentioned this before, speaking of journaling and things that I wanna, because I really love journals. Everybody knows this. Recently, in our mailbox, I think for my birthday, Chelle and I both were sent these amazing freaking journals. Amazing. Kendra sent these to us from Perfectly Normal Books, and holy crap, this is the coolest
they're
journal.
So cool.
We're going to have to put pictures up on our social media because this is amazing. It's got pockets. It's got trinket
Oh my
spots.
God. My whole thing is full of pockets to put things in. I absolutely love it.
It's got cool pages. It's got collage pages. It's got junk journal pages. It is just the most fun thing. We were also recently sent a digital Book of Shadows journal that I thought was very cool. So we also were recently sent a PDF of an online journal. She calls it the ADHD Witch Shadow Work Journal. And it is a very cute journal that has lots of different prompts in it, which, certainly helps when you're not sure what to write. And I love it that it's a digital download. So I do like journals. And this was sent by Caitlin. So I appreciate that, Caitlin. And thank you, Kendra, for my amazing junk journal. And I just wanted to give them a shout out for feeding my journal addiction because holy cow, these are awesome.
We love you guys.
We do. And a lot of these answers are going to involve journaling. So, hey, I figured I would give a couple people with journals a shout out. Anyway, Back
Back to
to
the answers.
Iwana's question. Iwana says, I was wondering if it is okay to do multiple spells in a short period of time, not necessarily for the same intention. Like, could it be draining or affect anything in some way?
Yes, yes, and yes.
Yes, that's true. Yes, you can do it. Yes, it can be draining. And yeah, it could affect things. Biggest things to be aware of, I would say, is how much energy are you expending and in what direction?
And what is the need to do so much in such a short period of time? I guess is my next question.
Exactly. If I'm layering spells, there's usually a reason. And it's not because I don't have time, because I think spells that go in different directions would be too draining, I think. But spells that are layered for a certain intention, like, say, a success spell layered with a glamour spell, layered with a confidence spell for an interview that you have coming up, that type of thing.
Because there's a buildup, yeah.
Yeah, so if they're being layered to go in a certain direction, then that helps. Think of your energy like water. You know, you're pouring water down like multiple slides, I guess. Water slides at a park. I don't know, maybe I'm anticipating summer, I don't know. But if the water is going down one slide and then you keep adding more water to it because it's all going in the same direction, you just get a cool water slide. But if you just have all this water being poured and it goes down multiple different slides in multiple different directions,
Everybody's getting shortchanged.
exactly. Some slides might not get any water. I don't know. This is a terrible analogy. But my point is that if it's all going in the same direction, it's probably good. Different directions, probably bad.
I think that you need to maybe prioritize what to put your focus on for that exact reason. I mean, if you're trying to do a love spell and a money spell and a success spell and a confidence spell, like it's basically like having your to-do list have 95 things on it. You can only spread yourself so thin. So my suggestion would be maybe to prioritize month by month on what is the most important things to be putting your energy in, or if they are of a similar nature, doubling up. You know, you can do two workings in one spell or in one ritual.
Have you ever sat down? Oh, I know you have. I know I have. Have you ever sat down to read a bunch of books?
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah. Done that a time or two.
sometimes you might be tired afterwards, right?
Right.
Or have you ever gone to take a big test and you feel drained afterwards?
It's like that mental exhaustion.
Exactly. You can build that up. Say you go to college or you start something new, say you're starting a new job, everything feels exhausting at first because there's so much new information, there's new things happening. You're expending energy in a lot of different directions. As you get used to that, as you get used to that routine, it gets easier. Spell works the same. If you start out and do a couple spells and build up that muscle, you can get better at it and you can get better at holding focus in different directions. But I would still say that building them to the same point is usually better. But you
Right.
can get good at focusing in multiple directions, I guess, if you really wanted to. Stay intentional. Make sure that you know why you're doing multiple spells. Is there a big reason? Do you not have time? Are you worried about something? You know, maybe there's some mundane things you could do instead of spell work. I guess it depends on why.
Maybe you should pull a tarot card.
There you go. That's a good reason too. All right, what's our next question?
Okay, so this one is from Amy22. And Amy22 says, I am a newbie witch and have listened to you guys for 2 years. Huge fan. You guys are like my witchy moms. Oh, thank you. I recently heard of sage not really being a cleansing thing and that it in fact brings spirits into your home, especially if the windows and doors are open. This is according to an Indian ritual, which is not what I practice. So I'm here to clarify, how do I actually cleanse?
First and foremost, any practices that you do should be something that you learn or are taught. So if it's something like you mentioned, Native American practices, if that's not something that you were taught, then that's something that you should stay away from. However, sage itself is a very useful companion in magic, in many different types of magic. And there are many different types of sage. A lot of
Correct.
people, when they refer to sage, mean white sage, which some people like, some people don't. Some people use for cleansing, some people don't. The traditional magical meanings of white sage that come from many different sources, Native American first and foremost among them, is blessings. It is cleansing, but it's also a blessing tool. And it's something that is right now can be very difficult to get. So a lot of people are moving away from white sage for blessing and for cleansing.
See, now I use sage for cleansing, but it's also sage that I personally grow.
That's usually silver sage or garden sage or culinary sage.
Right. And I just use it in a similar fashion.
Yes. Historically, garden sage has been used in European folk traditions for longevity, protection, clarity, clear thinking, and it carries that energy very, very well. So, garden sage can be used for cleansing and burned like incense. And the smoke is different. It smells different than white sage. And its effect is, I would say, a little gentler, but very, very effective. They're all sage and they can all be used to cleanse. A lot of that gets down to intention, right, Shel?
Right. And you can again say that with anything and everything.
Sage can banish or get rid of negative spirits. White sage is good for that. It's also good as a blessing herb to honor spirits. So it really depends on what angle you are coming to this herb from. Okay, so let's break down your question. You're looking for a cleansing thing. And as far as cleansing goes, I would say that garden sage works for this, including, fun enough, the sage you can buy to spice your chicken.
At the grocery store. Yep.
That's right. In a pinch, you can use the sage from your spice cabinet.
I've literally used that in incenses before, so
It is not the same as white sage. It does not have exactly the same properties, but it has similar properties. Plus, there's other herbs that you can use for cleansing. Rosemary is one that we are both a huge fan of because it's so utilitarian and so good for cleansing and blessing. Another one is pine. Pine is great for cleansing. Lemon is fabulous for cleansing and blessing. Now, worrying about bringing spirits into your home and the idea of having doors and windows open.
I feel like that's like a separate thing. I don't think it necessarily has anything to do with sage or cleansing, but can you have them be quote unquote spiritual doorways? Absolutely. You know, when I am warding and cleansing my house, I absolutely ward and cleanse and seal up my windows and doors. But I don't think the two are related. I think they're two separate things. Having your windows and doors open and maybe not having put any wards up or what have you could potentially open that doorway, literally and figuratively. But I don't think it necessarily has anything to do with whether or not you're using sage or any other herb for that matter, necessarily.
I think folk magic is really where the open and closed doorways and windows come from. The symbology, like Shell said, is if your windows are open, things can get in and out of them, energy
Right.
included. So, a lot of times when people are doing a home cleansing, they will cleanse the home with the windows and doors open to push out any negative energy, then close the windows and doors, seal them up, and pull in good energy and fill that
Correct.
space now with good energy. So, sure, you can use the open windows and doors as that could invite things in if you wanted, but it doesn't have to. It can also be a way for negativity to escape. It really depends on how you've set up the barriers in your home and what your intent and your belief is.
You have to give it a place to be flushed out of.
Exactly. So to clarify how you do actually cleanse, take an incense. It can be just something that you really like. It could also be lemon scented cleaning supplies and go through your
Right.
house and literally cleanse it. Open your windows and doors because it's spring with the idea of letting in that fresh, cleansing spring air, the newness, the renewal of that as you're cleaning. And think to yourself, I'm banishing the dirty, the negative, the old, and I'm inviting in the freshness. Then, when you're done cleansing, close your windows, light your favorite incense, light your favorite candles. Does not matter what kind of incense it is at all. It's best if it's something you just like. And then walk through your home and think of the things that you love, think of the things that you like. And especially at your front door, literally think only what I allow passes into my home, only
Yep.
positivity.
You have to set that intention. The whole world is all about setting boundaries. You have to also set magical boundaries as well. You're remiss if you're not. So you need to make clear what is and is not allowed in your house, in your space, whatever that case may be, on your property, whatever. I think that there's a couple different ways, and this thing that it always has to be smoke cleansing. One way I actually like to cleanse on occasion is to take some lemon verbena, put it in some water, go around, just sprinkle some of this lemon verbena water all over, draw some sigils above windowsills, draw some sigils above doorways, and just kind of set my intention. So think of it more as a water cleansing than a smoke cleansing, but you could do the same thing with rosemary or sage or whatever your tool of choice is.
Music. When you're done cleansing and you're ready to bring in that positive energy, blast your favorite music.
Right. Speaking of music, another option from smoke cleansing or water cleansing is if you have a singing bowl, you can go around your house with a singing bowl. You can, go to your entryways, go to your doorways, go into your space, all throughout your space with a singing bowl, and use the vibrational energy of the bowl to kind of cleanse that space. So it really comes down to what is your preference? What do you like? Not everybody can burn incense and what have you in their homes or apartments. So you work with what you got. And, again, intention is 98% of the battle.
All right, so we have another question, and this one's kind of serious. This one we've touched on a little bit in the past, but I'm happy to touch on it again.
Okay. Okay. Let's go deep. I think the name is Atia. So Atia writes, I wanted to request some guidance on something I've been getting too many mixed responses about on TikTok. Spiritual psychosis. Where do I know to find the line between confidence in myself and my craft and spiritual psychosis? I've seen it thrown around a lot on TikTok, which, by the way, she calls TikTok, and I find that super humorous. But anyway, she's been finding this wall between herself and her craft being self-doubt. Like, is she doing this? Is it in her head? Is it psychosis? What's going on? She tends to label it as psychosis, and it's messing up everything. She feels like she's going crazy, and she thinks that that's a big reason why the spells she does for herself don't work, but spells that she does or gives to others do work. Kind of that imposter syndrome. It's like writing a resume. You can write a resume for 1,000 people, but you can't write your resume for yourself. But she's taught a few people some things that she knows, like cleansing and such, but she's just struggling with this. So she's asking us to please help her.
Okay. This is an excellent question and one that I think should be asked more often because those two experiences are two sides of the same coin. Joseph Campbell was a writer and mythologist whose book, The Hero's Journey, really helped shape a lot of understanding about tarot and symbology and myth and ideas. And he said, the psychotic drowns in the same waters in which the mystic swims in delight. And I think what he means by that is that a mystic is working with the powers of their mind, their subconscious, their magical brain, and they're swimming in the waters of the liminal. They chose to be there. They're prepared and trained for it. And someone having a mental break or who has anxiety or fear or doubt or even has so much hope that they're blinded by reality, those people didn't choose to dive into the depths of their brains. They were pushed there, and they may find it difficult to break out of that loop. So I do want to say that it can be difficult if you do have any type of mental illness, mental disagreement, mental problem. It can sometimes be difficult to determine if something is witchcraft and magic or if it is psychosis. And so my rule of thumb is when you get a message or a sign, it's usually a one and done thing. Sometimes the message will be repeated, but it often comes differently. Like, say Hecate has decided that Chelle is on the wrong path.
Oh boy.
She'll have a feeling. She'll be like, whoa, I had a dream last night and Hecate said, XYZ, get your shit together. That will not repeat over and over and over again. She'll pull cards and it'll say, you're supposed to fix your car. Mama Hecate says, take care of your shit. Chelle will ignore it again. And
Then maybe a week later, my car might break down at an intersection.
at an intersection, a
At an
literal
intersection. Yeah,
intersection.
yeah, yeah,
Now,
yeah.
these are messages that are consistent with you need to pay attention to Mama Hecate. They're not the exact same message repeated over and over and over again. Messages that come from you for whatever reason, whether it's a fear or whether it's your own worries, whether it's anxiety or something more than that, those messages tend to repeat, like those messages that wake you up at 3 a.m. and won't shut up and keep saying, you said something stupid in third grade. You said something stupid in third grade. And it just keeps looping.
Yeah.
That's different. That's not a message. Even if it says, I'm Hecate, and I say you said something stupid in third grade, that's still not. If it loops over and over and over again, that's anxiety or that's some other issue that you're having. You will learn that there's a feeling to some of these messages that you get, but my biggest thing is that they're usually not stressful. And if they are repeated, they come in different ways.
And I agree. I think that kind of like if you get the record player effect, you
Yeah.
need to kind of think about where's your head taking you. But I agree in the legitimate messages come in multiple signs, I feel. It could be you see something, you hear something, you smell something. There's going to be multiple ways this message is being conveyed to you. It could be earlier today, I heard my name when I was outside and the wind was blowing and I was outside by myself. But then later on in the day, I smelled my grandma's perfume. That lends me to believe, does my grandma got something to say to me and what am I not listening to? You know, but if it's like, go fix your car, go fix your car, go fix your car. And
That's anxiety.
when I've known I've needed an oil change for the last 2 months, that's my subconscious being like, look, bitch, I'm going to play games with you until you listen to your own self, or again, if there's a illness involved, it could be that illness taking over in your head and not necessarily a clear psychic message.
I think you hit on another point is that if it's a true message, if you're truly feeling the result of a spell, or if you're truly getting a message from a guide or an ancestor, it usually feels empowering, even if they're yelling at you.
Right, right.
It won't feel overwhelming. It won't feel like it's beating you over and over
Or
again.
shameful or anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean your grandma your grandma might be like, change your oil, bitch. But
But then you're like, oh my God, my grandma came.
right, right. So it might be difficult. It might be a difficult message, but it's not going to be overwhelming. These messages that are true allow you to question them. They allow you to work through them. It will get better or it will feel right if you talk to other people about it. Whereas messages that could be psychosis or could be anxiety or depression, those messages tend to not want you to talk about them. They tend to be difficult.
And they're going to be the more scary, harmful messages. You're not going to get scary, harmful psychic experience, spiritual experiences. You know what I'm saying?
Most of the time, a psychic experience will not cause fear. I mean, they can, but most of the time they won't. A couple of questions to ask yourself to discern if it's a spiritual experience or psychosis are: what was the content of the experience itself? How do I remember and think about the experience? And how does that experience affect me and my life? So you first have to ask yourself, what was your emotional state when it happened and after it happened? Spiritual experiences are usually characterized by joy, peace, love, acceptance, blessing, feelings like that. Whereas psychosis is often accompanied by feelings of fear or paranoia, anxiety, or confusion. A spiritual experience will often improve your outlook or your mood. They bring feelings of peace and love, even if the message is a difficult one.
Statistically, it's probably not.
Even the stern messages from your guides, from the universe, are going to have an element of, hey, you can fix this. Take care of your
Right.
shit.
Or you chose not to fix this and there's consequences.
Right. Now you got to deal with it.
Right.
Right. It's a different flavor. And I always recommend, if you are not sure, please talk to someone. Talk to someone that you trust. Talk to a spiritual advisor. talk to a medical professional, talk to a teacher, talk to a counselor, talk to someone you trust and who cares about you, and they'll help you know which it is.
Correct.
It should bring positive, long-term personal growth or well-being, and you're still able to function. Spirits, energies, they're not usually trying to beat you down. Whereas my depression sometimes wants to kick the shit out of me.
I want to point out that Layla and I are by no means medical professionals. We have not gone to college for such things. When in doubt, seek professional help. There are pagan and witch leaning therapists out there, LGBTQ plus therapists out there. Go talk to somebody. We're just giving you our best answers, but again, we are by no means a doctor, a therapist, a social worker. So if you don't know in your core, please reach out to someone.
Magic should feel like it is helping, feel empowering. It should feel expansive. It should feel like you are learning and growing. If you're not feeling
Not
that way,
trapped.
yeah. If you're feeling trapped, if you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling in danger,
There's a
please reach
problem.
out. That's right. Please reach out to someone.
With that being said,
I have one more last question.
okay.
And I kind of love this one. And I saved this one for last because I also want to mention that something has changed. One of the platforms, our hosting platform, is called Buzzsprout. And we do have people that go to Buzzsprout to be able to listen to our episodes. And that's also where you can go to become a benefactor. And thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you to our benefactors.
Thank you, everybody, by the way. We love you. Thank you.
Now, one of the fun things that Buzzsprout has is the ability to leave text messages for us. In the past, it sucked because you were only able to leave messages and I could not respond to them. We couldn't reply to it. We couldn't email you back. We couldn't do anything other than maybe address it on an
We
episode.
could read them. That was about it.
That was about it. So they kind of went by the wayside. Just recently, Buzzsprout has announced not only can we now reply to these messages, but
You can leave us a voicemail. Oh my God, how cool is that?
pretty darn cool. So if you would like to leave us a voicemail, you can go to our Buzzsprout page, and I will put links to that on our website and in the show notes. And, maybe we'll play your message on an episode sometime.
I double dog dare you to leave us a message.
Now, with that being said, when Buzzsprout announced these changes, I went back to this page and I feel terrible. But back in January, someone from Haddonfield, New Jersey, wrote us a message that we didn't see and we couldn't have responded to even if we did. The message says, "Hi, ladies. I am very excited to say I'll be getting married this coming Beltane.
Oh my God, that's like right now.
I was wondering if you had suggestions for small ways to incorporate the holiday or other Celtic pagan traditions into our ceremony, vows, reception, etc. Even more importantly, what sort of witchy shenanigans should my friends and I be getting up to during the bachelorette party?"
Well, I don't know if that's a witchy topic or related to this podcast, but I got ideas.
Now, first of all, I want to apologize to bride-to-be in Haddonfield that we didn't see this. So obviously, we're a little too late to influence your ceremony or what was probably your fabulous witchy bachelorette party. But we can offer you congratulations on your wedding.
And we hope that you have the most wonderful, blessed, fantastic day of your life.
Now, some of the traditions that I incorporated into my hand fasting, my wedding, which as of this Beltane will have been 26 years.
Yikes.
I wish you the longevity and the blessings and the love that I have in my relationship in yours as well. But one of the things we incorporated was we created a cord. We picked his two favorite colors, my two favorite colors, and I created a 4-strand braid that in the middle switched the colors that were on top. So it switched colors and represented both of us, and we used that to tie our hands together to literally tie the knot.
I am a big fan of cords for hand fastings, the representation, the symbology. So that would have also been my number one go-to suggestion.
Fire is another symbol. Taking 2 candles and lighting a single unity candle can represent joining together. Fire also represents passion and love and drive. So it's a beautiful way to bring that into your wedding. There's also the tradition of stepping over a threshold or stepping over a broom to symbolize that you are stepping into a new life. You're stepping over that liminal space of one phase of your life into another.
Brooms represent households and fertility. So stepping over that broom represents kind of stepping into that phase of your life.
So hopefully you have a wonderful time on your wedding, and hopefully your bachelorette party was fantastic. If you did anything witchy for your bachelorette party, please let us know. And, hey, if you don't mind, we would love to see pictures of your Beltane wedding.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much for messaging us. Everybody, we appreciate all your messages. If we did not read your question today, please don't take any offense. We only had a minute amount of time to do this. If we did everybody's, it would be like a 6-hour long show. Keep your questions coming. Keep your mail coming. And Layla, speaking of mail,
because we have moved our P.O. box, it is now P.O. Box 21, Tioga, Pennsylvania, 16946. That will be posted on our website as well as in the show notes. And we have decided to have a little tiny contest.
We love contests. We really do.
Now, this one, we're not exactly calling it a contest. That way we can do it worldwide.
Yeah, right.
So this is more of a first
race.
Come, first serve. Yeah, it's a race.
It's a race.
I like that.
This is a witch race. So we are presenting a witch race. It's a race against time.
To enter, all you have to do is send us a letter or a postcard, and on it, put the subject of a spell that you would like us to write for you personally. So you could just send us a postcard to our P.O. box with the word money on it, or success, or romance, or whatever the subject of a spell you want. And whoever wins this mailbox race, the very first letter or postcard that we get in our P.O. box will be the winner. And they will get a letter from Chelle and I with a personalized spell written just for them.
I'm literally going to write us a letter because I want to win.
Chelle, you keep doing this, and I keep telling you you are ineligible.
Damn it.
Last time I had to throw away like 3 entries you tried to slip under the radar.
Pop in a little note, a little postcard, even if you put a smiley face on a sticky note with the word love underneath it. Pop something in the mail, and the first piece of mail we get at our brand spanking new P.O. box, you're going to hear back from us.
That's right. You will get a handwritten letter from Chelle and I with a personalized spell just for you. So thank you all so much for listening to this episode of Back on the Broomstick. I know you all want to run out, grab a postcard, and drop it in the mail for us, so we won't keep you much longer.
Stay wise, stay wicked,
and keep it witchy.